And I'm live. Just seeing how to do this because Jared's channel wasn't working correctly, so we're trying to see if we can do it on my channel. I have not gone live with other people yet before, so this is going to be a little bit new. So I'm trying to see if.
And let's try going to Wilson's channel.
All right, Pablo's going to come.
Did I post the link? It's not appearing. Oh my god, it's never appearing there. No, it's not.
So I'm trying to see if we can bring more people over here. We're doing this all live. Okay, let's see. The regular chat.
No, I don't have permission to post links. Okay, but the channel is Wilson Ramos Jr. Okay, I think it's working. Okay, so.
Okay, sorry, I'm just having everyone
So
just
I'm going
waiting.
to stop now, and I'm going to Wilson's channel.
Let's see
So
if it works.
see if you can follow us there, and we will see you in a minute.
I'm sorry. I keep not that I'm forgetting that we're live. It's just that I'm waiting for Pablo to come over, adding him to stream. Okay, welcome. Let's see if I did this correctly. Okay, I think that's the format we've used before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've gone live before, but you're my first guest on here. So okay, so far we have one person that came along.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got some other people. So welcome everybody. Oh, thanks for subscribing. That's great. Let's see. Can we show who said stuff? Okay. Found it and even subscribed. Thank you. Tit Goblin, welcome. Okay, now I have access to buttons I've never seen before. So I'm putting it there. I asked Jared. I also the link I sent you. I sent to Jared as well. On his channel, on his YouTube, he is still listed as live. So unfortunately, I don't think I could put the link for me as on there as well, because I think we're both kind of blocked from adding links to his. Yeah. He would have to make us. I forgot the name of it. He would have to make us administrators or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, we'll
moderators at least.
Moderators, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just basically continuing Jared's show. Hopefully, I was able to pick the name correctly as well, because Streamline doesn't look like YouTube, so because of that, I don't see the same type of information. Mm-hmm. So let me just let people know.
Yeah. Well, when StreamYard showed up, it was because YouTube said that they were going to end support for Google Hangouts, which is kind of stupid because Google owns YouTube. But StreamYard showed up and everybody started using it because it's easy. Professional YouTubers don't really like StreamYard because they can do a lot of stuff that they want. But for people who just do this from home and don't really care what the stream looks like, it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't do Twitch and I don't do the video game stuff. I mean, I have stuff recorded, but it's really just me and my friends playing Halo and cursing at each other. So to me, it's like I don't even think that it's not even good comedy because I'm not a good player. they are pretty good themselves. So it's mainly just me cursing that I'm not doing as well at shooting them as everybody else. So, so that's why I don't do anything like Twitch. And the only other streaming I do is TikTok. And that is more of just me speaking to the screen, because with TikTok, unless you invite someone specifically to do that, there's no real interaction. People do text, so there's stuff like that on there, but I don't know enough people on TikTok that I would say I trust to have a regular conversation, kind of a thing. Show this, okay. And I don't know why I'm saying what I'm doing out loud, but yeah. So, yes, it worked. I'm the new Jared now. Crazy art supplies. I don't have anything to talk about except this vanish. This is, let's see if I do this correctly. This is a eraser that I used that has replaced all my needed erasers. I basically use this now compared to the needed eraser ones because it's a bit gummy, but it's not exactly like the needed erasers. And I feel like these don't rip up the pages as much. And I love using these, especially for sketch cards. So these, I believe, are a Korean-based company that put these out, but I was able to get them through not Michael's. I'm sorry, it wasn't Michael's. This was actually given to me by an artist, Buzz. He gave them out at one of the cons because one of the art stores that he did a show with basically sponsored his table at one of the conventions, and they were giving these out as part of that. So that's my art supply for the day. I put a message on Jared's. Why didn't that stay? That was weird. I put a message on Jared's channel. We moved it to here. Okay. On his, there is because I have that window open. I don't know if he's trying to log on or not, but we got the spinning wheel on there. All right. So I thank everybody for coming over. Make sure you subscribe, and in case we have to do this again in the future. And I do plan to doing more lives anyway. So do we want to continue to talk about Warhol, or do we want to go on to marketing comics? Because I was part of the marketing department for Marvel for a short while. It was the conventions department, but through that we had contact with like Wizard Magazine, and it was our office that basically put out press releases directly to comic book news outlets. So back then was Comic Scene, Wizard Magazine, Heroes Magazine, Comics Buyer's Guide. Those are the ones I recall off the top of my head. I think Comics Interview had stopped by that time. But we were at Star-Lord Magazine, which is the same company that did Comic Scene. They were sister magazines. So we would be kind of delivering everything to the same person. And we would have press releases with stuff for the comic books. And, that back then was a lot of fun. This is 94, 93, 94. So there was press releases going on, and marketing was kind of going on. And there was always a fight to get onto an image cover. I'm sorry, an image cover. A fight to get on a Wizard cover because they all wanted to just promote the image stuff. And I think that's where I say Marvel got gun shy and stopped doing all their promotions of artists. They want to create another set of Wizard or another set of image artists. Was Star-Lord owned by Fangoria? I think they were sister companies. I think they were sister magazines, but Fangoria could have been its own thing. Because I think Fangoria kept going even after Starlog and comic scene stopped.
Yeah. A friend of mine had a bunch of comic scenes from the 90s. And when that magazine restarted in 2000, I started buying it. But then it only lasted for 3 issues.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I
but it's quite a shame because I like those. The comic scene was definitely more interested in more interesting in some ways than what Wizard at when the market crash happened. I think the guys at Wizard was smart enough to reinvent themselves to cover the what was left of the market, especially because since other magazines disappeared, they were going to have to be more. Uh, they had to have a wider coverage of what was going on instead of just thinking about what comics they could, how much comics were worth, and what was hot and not. And so there was definitely a need to talk about things that had quality, not just things that were selling well. Um, Comic scene might have become a good alternative if it had continued, but unfortunately they didn't. And a couple of years later, even Wizard went out of business. Uh,
yeah.
just They just went online, but by that time, the existing websites had already surpassed it. So I don't think that Seamus knew what he was doing. Uh, Here's one thing that you were doing badly at the marketing department. Let's send press releases to the comic magazines. Okay, what else? There was no what else. You needed to have some sort of contact in mainstream press that might be interested in talking about Marvel, but they would not talk about Marvel in the same way that the comic magazines would do, because if you put out 10 new comics, the comic magazines could talk about those 10 comics. A mainstream publication would never do that. They would probably pick and choose whatever they felt would be interesting or relevant to their audience in a way that it would not appeal to superhero readers. But you kind of need that.
I agree with you on that. The thing was that we ran into a lot of trouble. And what I mean by that is that we wanted to advertise, or not advertise, we wanted to market outside of the regular other than the regular outlets, comic
Mhm.
scene, Wizard, magazine, all that stuff. They was the wanting to push to mainstream, or what I want to call it. But we always got pushback because I don't recall the names, and I wish Jared was here. He might recall. We did have our portion of the marketing department, which was conventions and events. Then you had Marvel's true marketing department, and they was run by people whose concept was no news is good news, which was the weirdest thing. That they wanted Marvel to be mysterious, that there's something hidden. These are weird things that we ran into. And unfortunately, because when I was there, I was an intern, so I didn't get all the information. Other than was like the marketing person, I don't recall her name, who she was, but she wanted to keep certain information away. And we would run into that a lot, where we would say, "Oh, we got things going on. Like we got Captain America on the cover of Wizard magazine when they did not care for Captain America. They didn't want Captain America on Wizard because they felt that Captain America was an old-fashioned character. And my boss at the time, Gary, fought to get that on there. And there was little fights like that would go on. What Wizard wanted, what they didn't want. So every time there was a press release sent out, we sent it out to the most people we could at the time, and then try to get it to other things. So I always felt that every time we try something new and different, we got a lot of pushback from it. AOL came out. The internet was brand new. And so we had a Marvel chat room back when they were chat rooms. I don't even know if people remember what chat rooms were. But it was the same thing as this, but without the video. It was just the text on the side. So we had those types of things going on. And again, there was a fight of whose department would control the chat room. And eventually it went to some editorial where it would be that, oh, we can get an assistant editor who's willing to speak from like 5 to 7 about comics, because that's when the chat rooms had the most liveliness at the time. People would come home, they would log into AOL, and then we had the chat rooms. So we got information out like that. But the problem was also controlling information, because you had the problems with those little magazines, Wizard, Hero, and all that, trying to get the scoop and print whatever they could print before anything was verified. So you had a lot of rumors. There was a ton of leaks coming from Marvel. Every time there was a meeting, people got on the phone. Yes, they need to get on the phone to talk to their artists about what we're going to be working on soon, but there was no real control of what should have been said. So the whole thing with the Spider Clone Saga ran longer than it should have, because every time we would have something happen, Wizard would leak what's going to happen next. And then Marvel fought to go, let's not let them be correct. Let's change the storyline and change the storyline. And it was a madhouse at the time. That storyline ran so much longer than it should have. Mary Jane was pregnant for like 3 Christmas specials.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that was going on. What is this? Gary Shameless from Wizards in the fine art world now owns. He's probably Banksy. I love Garib. He's great. I doubt that he's Banksy, but that would be funny. But again, it was like the internet was new, so there was people trying to scoop whatever. Also, this is 30 years back, and I'm trying to remember everything at the same time, so dates are going to be incorrect. But when we could control the narrative, we were able to put out the stuff that were fun. We had a radio show. I don't know if people realize that there was also a weekly radio show coming out from Marvel that talked about the advertisement and things going on. Tom Morgan was on Iron Man, so he redid a whole Iron Man page through the radio, doing the voices and stuff like that. So fun things were going on like that at the time. Like I said, the internet was brand new, so we put out the first internet comic book, which Gen X was released as an internet comic. So we were trying the new media at the time, but we would get pushed back about it, where it's like, everyone was scared of the internet at the time. So what were we allowed to do? Once our department got fired, the conventions department got fired, all that new stuff that was being tried out just never happened. We were going to do live, through AOL, we were going to do live conventions, live interviews and stuff like that. And we had it all set up. And that's when the Coliseum, this is back when we had comic conventions at the Coliseum. I don't know if you ever been to the United States for conventions at all.
Nope.
No? Okay. So before everyone kind of became a mini San Diego Comic Con, there were local shows going on, and the biggest one in New York City was at the Coliseum. Building does not even exist there anymore. We were going to do our first live stream from a comic convention all the way back in 1994, 95, before anyone else ever did that. That was going to be like the first live from a con back in the 90s. And everything was basically set up. But the day of the con, the fire marshals came in and shut down the whole show. This was a Greenberg show. They were the large ones for the New York conventions. And apparently everybody got all the permits were all signed except for the fire marshals. and that shut down the Greenberg show. That kind of destroyed having a con in New York City for a good couple of years. This is where Cavern and the Apple Comic Cons kind of first popped up. They grabbed a bunch of, they rented a church behind where the Coliseum was. They rented a church and had a small convention there because everybody was already set up. And that just like destroyed Comic Cons for New York for a short period of time until they moved it over to Madison Square Garden. But that took years to happen. And a lot of the plans that Marvel had at that time was to do live from conventions, doing interviews with artists and stuff like that. So the marketing was there until they got rid of that whole department. And we were the only portion of Marvel that wanted to use the new technology. And now they don't even have anything like that. Oh, we have another guest.
I think I'm back. I am not sure.
Welcome back. Welcome to Ramos Comics. Our show is weekly now. And
I wonder if mine shut off. Did mine shut off?
No, it's still going.
Eventually shut off. I kept it on as a separate window. I kept getting the scrolling wheel, so I thought you were going to pop up, and then eventually
it ended.
It ended on its own, and then it kind of started
2:16:07.
again. Yeah, so it did end on its own, but I am not sure what was going on. And then because I was backstage while Pablo was talking, it was like, okay, we could try something else. So.
No, I was rolling for 20 minutes.
I've been trying to fix this the whole time. On the phone with texting people back and forth, doing all the automated stuff, and nothing's working. And then all of a sudden, it popped back up like 5 minutes ago. The wireless did. My hardwired Ethernet one isn't back. I don't know what's going on, but I just got 8 pages in. I have to set up for Dave Sharp. So.
Oh, okay.
So it came in just in time for me to set something up for Dave, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there you go. Yeah, we just end up talking about Marvel's marketing. What I tried to do, or what I did when I was working with Gary, and we were running a portion of the marketing department through conventions. But I do not know who at that time was really running the marketing department at Marvel. I just remembered it was some lady who, every time we suggested something, would say, no, let's not do that. The less we're in the news, the better. And I came from, my first love was advertising. That's what I wanted to do in school. So my thing was always, advertising. As long as people are talking about it, good or bad, that should be it. The last thing I remembered that came from above is when they were announcing that, Mary Jane was pregnant, what should be done. And someone suggested from the other marketing department, not from ours, that booties should be given out. And it was like, it should be treated like a regular birth announcement, but it's like, all right, we put the Spider-Man logo on the booties, and it's like, no, they'll just be booties. We'll just send out booties and just be like, why create a mystery that you don't need? Do it like the wedding. Send out wedding invitations. Those look good. But it was weird how they would market some stuff and then not market other stuff. And yeah, we tried, and then they fired us all, and then that was it. We didn't hear from anything again. And the Marvel chat room for AOL was pretty good. We had a lot of people there, and I would pop up. I had a lot of fun in the chat room. There was a moderator called Doomcat or Doomscribe. Sorry. Doomscribe, who was a huge fan of Dr. Doom, but was the moderator on the AOL lines, and they did a great job of moderate. So there was a lot of fun that way. And I would pop up every now and then and make announcements and go, this is what was being worked on. This is the new books that will be coming out. So we were embracing the new technology until it was like, boom. But yeah, it was just a bunch of stuff that with the Coliseum closing down, it completely destroyed our concept of what we wanted. Because we were going to go live from the Coliseum, Jared. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
We had set it up with AOL to be the first live at a convention. And this is 94, 95. So it was stuff, And going back for the first digital comic, which was Gen X, it took 24 hours for that book to upload onto the web to be able to do it. So that was the first one. And I think one of the 2099 books was going to be uploaded to the web as well. I don't know if it was Ravage or if it was going to be Spider-Man 2099, but it was fun, but at the same time, it was also pulling teeth on what we were allowed to talk about.
Huh. Let's see if I can upload this because it just gave me an error.
Yeah, I had to restart.
I'm talking to them down here right now.
What was that?
My sister's talking to me up there. She's like, I have no internet connection. Do you? I'm like, yeah,
You can disappear at any time now.
This is not right.
I sometimes find it funny the way that marketing is done in different industries, because there's a bunch of industries out there that they don't know how to tell people about their products, and they are in mass market. And being in the automotive press, the people in the car companies, they send us everything. There was a time when, okay, we just put in a new radiator grill, so it's like a whole new model. No, it's the radiator grill. And we wanted you to test drive the car. Dude, why we don't want to test drive the car? It's just a radiator grill. We'll do it. And they want us to do a full page of it and that's why they fly us out to events so that we can justify doing the whole page. But they tell us everything, and they give us all the information that we need. And that includes a 60-page technical description of the entire car. And there will be quotes from the guy in charge of the suspensions, and quotes from the guy in charge of design, and quotes from the guy in charge of the upholstery. And they will tell us how important it is to get the right feel, so that, and a lot of us don't even care about that. We don't put that in the final article, but the fact that they care so much to give us as much information as they think we need, which is always more than we actually need. And then hearing companies also trying to do mass market products, and they try to avoid contact with the people who are going to talk about their products for free.
Well, I'm going to have to troubleshoot, so I'm going to have to leave you guys, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I'll catch you later.
All right. Take care.
See you, Jared.
Have a good one.
But I found that so counterproductive. It's like you don't actually want to succeed.
Well, I don't know. It's just that I do production work for a company named Apex Comics. We're a small press company, and we put out comics. We mostly go through Kickstarter as our marketing thing because, trying to get into places like Diamond and things like that has been obstacles. We're finally going through Mythology Comics. We're kind of partnering with them to do some stuff so we can be on into previews. But before that, we've been mainly just doing Kickstarters, and we're just starting to make a buzz. But we've put out press releases to everyone that we can, not only, and there's even less comic book places to put it. We send it to various websites.
Mm-hmm.
So we send out the information, we do follow-up calls, and then again, we don't really get any feedback. So good or bad. You know, if they at least told us stop sending us this, we're not going to report it. At least that would be something. But you know, what is it that we can do? You know, so we advertise it as best I can. As a matter of fact, I'm going to shamelessly put our newest one into the information to see if this does it correctly, because this is the first time that I've been doing this. So here's a Kickstarter. Oh, that is terrible looking. Okay, let's see, because that didn't really give a link. I don't know if that's a clickable link or not.
It is, yeah.
It's okay. So there's our Kickstarter. That's right now is only the sign up, right? It hasn't gone live. This is just for people to sign up, get some information. But again, it's one of those things. It's like, you know, we did press releases. They got sent out to all or the ones that I'm aware of, because there's also websites popping up all the time. But they seem to only want to talk about not comic book news. They want to talk about movie news, because, and I get it, they're a business also, and everyone's clicking for the comic book movies, not necessarily the comic book themselves. So where can things get marketed? And then, you know, we have a Facebook page. There's an Instagram page type of stuff, but that becomes its own job by itself to fill up that information, where, you know, to get followers. And we joke, it's like, oh, one of the things that we're asked when we were trying to get other distributors, we're like, all right, how many followers do you have? What do you mean, how many followers do you have? Well, if you have this many followers, then we can distribute your books. And it's like, if I had that many followers, I wouldn't have to distribute my book, because I would just sell it directly to the followers. But I don't know what the answer is to that. You know, all the marketing stuff that I learned was marketing stuff that I learned back in the 80s. You know, when I was going to high school and college, those marketing tricks don't work anymore, because, you know, our people are still reading magazines and newspapers, but are people advertising in that? A buddy of mine who was working on his own comic book, he said he had saved up a few grand to do an advertisement in a newspaper. And it was like, well, how many eyes are going to see that for one day? Because he only could afford to publish that ad for one day. And yeah, I like the idea of advertising a comic book, something outside of a comic book magazine, outside of a house ad. But that's a big chance. Yeah, you'll have, you know, a potential thousands of eyes on the newspaper. But are these people who are reading the newspaper going to also read a comic book? So it's like, where do you advertise? I think back on the really cool advertisements I saw. The G.I. Joe comics had really cool advertisements, because it started off as a cartoon and says, read the rest in Marvel Comics. And I get it. They needed that to sell toys, but they couldn't say buy the toy. But you could say buy the comic. And the comic hopefully led you to the toy. Malibu Comics, I think it was Malibu, are the only ones who ever had national commercials. And that worked. I went looking for the comic books because of that. And I think Cartoon Network for a short period of time did comic book commercials. I think DC did it, but the Cartoon Network is owned by Warner Brothers. So that seemed like a no-brainer. Why aren't more comic books advertised by the company that owns the comic books? You know, and again, I don't have any of the answers. I don't know why it's done that way. Here in America, it's just like, you know, everything is run on capitalism, but they're doing it wrong in plenty of other ways. One of the coolest things when I went to go see Shazam was they gave out Shazam comics. That was cool as a moviegoer. As a collector, I had no place to put this thing. I was too worried about it. You know, my hands are full of popcorn. I got the drinks. They gave us this comic book that's not bagged and boarded. So as a collector, I watched the movie with a lot of anxiety. I'm going to mess up this comic. But I think as a regular comic goer, it was pretty cool to get a free comic book when I went. Um,
Mhm.
the Alamo Draft House, which is a chain here in the United States that you could you could watch a movie and get food. Uh, you could order burgers and stuff like that and drinks, alcoholic drinks. So they have various beers. When they would do a comic book thing, what was kind of cool with them is that they would invite, and again, this is up to the movie theater itself. They would invite local comic book shops to set up in the lobby. So what happens is you would go see your MCU movie, you would come out, and in the lobby there'll be a table set up from a local comic book shop selling pops, selling trade paperbacks, selling things related to the character. And the movie theater did not have to do this. It's just something that they did to get more people to the theater. They've done more advertising for comic books than comic books companies themselves. It was great for the comic book shop because it will be a local shop. So it will be the place that I go to is in Westchester County. So a lot of the shops in Westchester would be there, but they even branched out. So they even invited comic book shops from like Queens. So the shop gets free advertisement for the shop itself. They make a few bucks. I do not know if oh, actually, I do know because a shop that I used to go to went there and they had gotten a free table. They had to bring the table themselves. But what I mean is that the space was available for them for that short period of time. Every time that the movie would let out, they would get a big bump in business. And that type of stuff I've only seen a handful of times. AMC did it for Star Wars, where they invited. Um, I think they actually had Toys R Us had like a little stand. But again, that wasn't. I don't think that was being even done by the Star Wars people. It was just people at the movie theater going, "Hey, you know, it'd be fun," and things like that is kind of taking marketing into your own hands. And as a shop, you could kind of do that. As a theater, you can do that. But I don't see Marvel and DC doing that stuff. Um, or at least I don't see them doing that now. When I worked at Marvel, if you owned a comic book shop, you could call Marvel and Marvel would pay for half of the ads that your comic book shop took out in your local paper. I even have I have to dig it up. I don't have it readily available. But I had a marketing kit that Marvel put out that said, here, you pay for the following items, or not actually that you pay. What you do for the following items is you put together. We have another guest.
I got everything up and running again, so I figured I'd come on.
Okay. So
Everything.
you would get this package, you would create the ad, and then put it into your local paper and your local radio station, and Marvel would pay for half of that. That was the stuff that they used to do. And I don't know if they do that anymore. I do not know if any of that even exists marketing wise. Because there was a full marketing department that put out a magazine called Sales to Astonish. You know, the play on words and stuff like that. And they would do things with comic book shops to advertise the books, what was available, and Marvel would pay for a portion of that. But I have no idea if DC does that or Marvel does that anymore because I'm not privy to what they do for shops. I don't know if they do anything for shops at all. Because once Diamond became the big monster they became, I think Marvel was just putting the solicitations together for them to just stick it into the catalog and call it a day. So, again, I have no idea how marketing is done in comics at all.
Yeah, I know they had retailer summits, but I was wondering what they're actually like and what they talk about.
I've been to the ones in the 90s, and they were a lot different because they were on cruise ships, and all they did was stand around talking to each other how great their books are doing. I've been to one with Rob Liefeld at
my
the Marriott.
my LCS owner occasionally tells me about them, talks to me about the ones that are in
San Diego.
Baltimore.
Oh, right, because Diamond is in both.
He would usually go once a year to them, and they liked going. They liked going because they could talk to people and be heard. So I have to say that they enjoyed the retailer summits, my LCS owner, because I guess Diamond would actually respond, you know.
I remember there was one at the Marriott, and I went to represent my store that I was working for at the time, the local comic, and Rob Liefeld was there, and we had to go because my owner and my manager did not want to go, and so I went and I took a buddy of mine, and we went. It was the first time seeing this type of stuff. So we were there representing the store, and they were just talking about Image was putting out that what was the gimmick? The blood on the comics, where if you put your hand on the comic, the heat activated the blood. So the blood was like it was transparent, and when you put your hand onto it, the heat made it red. That was the gimmick comic at the time. And we had to go. The reason why our shop had to go in order to get a free comic book that was only being given away at this summit. So you had to go. The store would get signed in that you were there, and you listened to the summit. And I think it was like 2 or 3 hours. I don't remember a single thing in it other than Rob Liefeld made an appearance. It was like a big deal, and then they talked about that cover and stuff like that. And so it was fun to go to. And like I said, and the only other one I've been to was one in San Diego, and they had it on a cruise ship. And again, it was more of just talking about what they're doing and everyone talking about the comics. But since then, I have no idea what goes on in those, because I haven't been to any of those types of meetings. So I don't know what they're doing advertising wise. And now that Marvel is going through Random House, DC was going through someplace I think called Luna or something like that. I don't recall the company. And then you have Diamond. So again, I don't know if they're doing much to advertise the books themselves outside of the books themselves.
Well, the distributor is kind of the weak link in that chain because they don't really care. There needs to be some sort of interaction between the publisher and the retailer, or even if you have a distributor in the middle, because you have to the way the system is set up with no returns, you have to convince them that you should buy your comic. Which I remember there was talk about it on the Usenet news groups that sometimes Marvel and DC, by withholding information about the solicitations, they were trying to prevent the reader from knowing what the story was about beforehand, but the retailer had no idea if they should order more of the comic or not. So there needs to be some sort of contact with the retailers. Of course, sometimes we get info from the car companies, and they tell us, okay, we have an embargo until day so and so in time so and so. And journalists were used to dealing with information, so we know how to react to embargoes. We get the stuff done, and you only release it in that specific time. Retailers might not be that inclined or understand the significance of it, so there will probably be leaks that you don't want.
There's always a leak.
There's always a leak, of course, but
retailers,
but retailers are probably not disciplined enough for
There's
what
too many
the company, right? But there needs to be some way that the retailers have access to privileged information that the public doesn't have, in order for the retailers to properly order a comic in advance.
Right. A lot of times now they give them advanced warning, I think, but they're vague about it.
Mm.
They're like, oh, this one's going to have a big event in it, but they don't say what exactly the big event is.
Mhm.
Then there's stuff that takes everybody by surprise. Like sometimes a new character. Who was that new Batman character for like the Joker's daughter or somebody from 3 or 4 years
Oh,
ago?
Punchline.
Punchline. It was like every all of a sudden everybody's like, "Ooh, punchline," and I don't know, I think that caught everybody by surprise because you never know which character is going to be the hottest one. Remember Mr. Bloom? Holy cow! Mr. Bloom was like that was like 10 years ago now. Who knows? The hottest Batman, that new Batman villain, bloody blah, and like the new 52 Batman or something like that, and around 50 or whatever it was, and for 2 months everything was Mr. Bloom on YouTube, and then nothing.
I never heard of him. I never heard of him. It didn't cross. I think I heard about Punchline, and the only reason why I know about Punchline is because I knew an indie creator who had a character named Punchline. Same, very similar premise.
Right.
And it's like, even to the costume being very similar. So it's like, oh, that looks more like DC took an indie's creation. But, again, it's the craziness of the industry itself. I wish I knew what marketing things would work, because I would try to sell my books that way. It kicks like I recently shared a Kickstarter on a project that I'm working on with Apex, and it's like, we were talking about press releases, and we would send it out to news organizations. We would send it out, obviously, to all the comic book organizations, but they're all mostly web organizations, and all they want is MCU stuff. So they don't even want to report on comic books. And as I was telling Pablo, is that I would like, at least if they contacted us back and go, this is not something we would like to advertise, or this is not something we want to report on. So at least we know that.
I wonder,
send us the email going, thanks for sending this. So we know
that's never going to happen. But I wonder if there's a way to put a poll in the email that says that, where all they have to do is click a button. That, I think, would work better than them having to send you an email, because they're just not going to send you an email saying we're not interested.
As for the rest, the comic book websites suffer from the same problem that affects internet-based mainstream media in the US. All of those people who are hired as journalists think they're opinion makers. Nobody wants to know their opinion, but apparently they think that being a journalist is having an opinion. I'm sorry, no, but everyone has opinions, and they're not worth much. Information needs to be worked in order to actually be informative, and these people trying to do articles like top 10 ways that Spider-Man can use his webbing, or then they go 5 ways that Spider-Man is problematic. Yeah, nobody cares. Spider-Man's problematic.
It's something about putting the numbers in there. But you know what it is also, is that you have the internet gurus going, the best way to get people to come to your page is to make the list. Here are the top 10 this, and everyone just copies each other, because again, it's like, or if you want to know the real secrets, then subscribe to my top 10 list of what to do to sell advertising. So again, it's kind of like the snake eating its tail, because it's like I want comic book news, I want comic book information. One of the coolest things that happened was, during San Diego Comic-Con, they would do these live streams. I thought that was wonderful. Not a single stream about comic books. Yeah. It's like, I would subscribe to that. So, I can't make it to San Diego Comic-Con. I want to know some information. I would probably pay $1 or $2 to get the information, but the streams that they give, the stuff that they give for free, is like, is stuff that's like, I have no interest of it. I'm sure there are people who do, but it's like the name Comic-Con. It's comics is in the name.
Yeah.
Give me that.
That-
But
That just reminded me. I don't. I can remember. It must be 10 years ago now. There were like shows, like on TV, cable TV, about Comic-Con, broadcasting live from Comic-Con, and I haven't seen that in years. I'm pre-COVID even. It's like I wonder if like Comic-Con on TV had peaked in like 2014 or something, because I can remember like it was there used to be, you know, geek. I don't even know the channels anymore. I don't watch live TV, but it used to be you could just. Well, I wasn't really watching it then either, so how did I know? But it used to be like there were some channels who had like all day they had Comic-Con broadcasts. And I'm like, does that happen anymore?
I don't think so. I don't recall the last time I watched a Comic-Con stream.
Yeah.
On
This
cable.
wasn't even a stream. This was on actual cable TV.
Right, on cable TV. So that would be the gaming channels. Like I know,
Right,
like
one of
Attack
those-
of the Show was a show that I watched. It was called Attack of the Show,
Right.
and they would do comic book stuff, and they would do when there was a Comic-Con, they would do stuff from there. But I don't recall what channel was doing that particular thing.
Yeah, I just haven't seen it in so long. I wonder if they stopped it yet. I remember if there was like a peak Comic-Con on TV coverage, and now we're past the peak.
We probably are. I think that
Yeah.
type of stuff went into streaming.
Yeah, could be.
I would imagine that's where it ended up getting taken over. Would be there. So so this is usually our time that we switch off. Do we want to keep going? I know that you're having internet problems and you need to go to bed soon. So
Even with less of an hour difference, it is 1 o'clock almost.
It's still late.
Mhm.
okay, so since we're on this channel, so thanks everybody for coming. Jared, where can we find you and your stuff?
JaredOsborn.com. You can find all my links. You can find Jared Osborn on YouTube. Find Art by Osborn on Instagram. I usually go by Jared Osborn or Art by Osborn, one or the other. You can find me under those two names everywhere.
There you go. Pablo?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, where I will do absolutely nothing. But I do recommend subscribing to the Comic Book Historians Facebook group, where there's lots of cool information about the history of
joined that one. I wanted to join that one. I've heard you mention it before. I just don't think I've ever joined it.
There's actually 2 Comic Book Historians groups nowadays.
Okay. Send me an invite to the good one. Is that a group you send an invite out to, or do I ask for it?
I can't just add you.
You add me.
I'm going to put you on the
All right.
good ones.
Everybody have a good night out there.
All right. You can find me everywhere on Ramos Comics, on most of all social media that way. And thanks everyone once again for coming over here. Next week we should be back at Jared's channel and we do that. So take care, everybody.
Ta-ta.
And broadcast. See if I do